Hello, welcome back to another week of the European Tour picks and bets. Not just another week, this is the Super Bowl of the European Tour, the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth Golf Club. Tom Jacobs, how excited are you for this week?
We don't often get just an empty week just to talk about the European Tour. I feel like everyone's going to be like, oh my God, it's just European Tour. What do we do? You come and watch this show. I will be there Sunday afternoon, hopefully cheering on one of our bets, maybe one in particular we both obviously like. But look, it's a great week. It's a really good week. We've got the added layer of the Ryder Cup selections as well to come following the conclusion of the event. It's been a very exciting week. We've got the Solheim Cup still going on as we speak. So try not to get distracted too much by that. But yeah, really good week to look forward to.
Absolutely. A lot of fun golf played over the last, I guess, would say, week, 2 weeks leading into all of this. I mean, the Tour Championship is probably not even near the headline of what the golf was played. Patrick Cantlay, of course, taking that home. But, my eyes have been glued on the Solheim Cup. The Italian Open was, pretty exciting on Sunday. I felt, once again, Tom, through 18 holes, the 2 weeks ago, wonderful. James Morrison, we're on him all over. Feel great. 36 holes. They gave us 18 more last weekend. Minwoo Lee, here we go. Two clear guys, kind of a stone cold killer, 2 wins already. Of course, he's not going to let up. And man, are these weekends just killing people. It's unbelievable some of the rounds that guys in contention are putting together, especially those that we happen to have our money on. So it's a little bit sad that Minwoo did not have much the rest of the way. But what did you think overall in the Italian Open?
I enjoyed it. I think that the reviews I read on the golf course weren't exactly enthralling. I think Oliver Wilson basically said there wasn't a memorable hole on the golf course, which is a slight concern considering it's going to be a Ryder Cup venue in 2023. But look, it did a great job, I think, in terms of the actual tournament they played this week, right? I mean, it was a 7 under led after round one, 13 under one on Sunday. And to be honest, that was a battle on the final day to get to that 13 under score. So obviously we saw the twin in Nikolai Højgaard follow up Rasmus's win the week before. I think we've kind of mentioned, haven't we, that I don't think there's an awful lot between the two of them. I think there's a big reach for Rasmus because he had those 2 wins and then he got a third. And when he got that third, I kind of thought maybe there is a bit of a significant difference between the two. But then Nikolai gets in the field, late invite on Monday. Not even sure if he was in the field by the time we were talking about it on the show last week. But we've mentioned it a few times. His ball striking has been leading up to that. And if you think way back to 2019, before me and you were even doing this show, he went head to head with, or toe to toe, whatever you want to call it, with Sergio Garcia at the KLM Open. Actually bested him on the Sunday, shot 1 shot better. He was just 1 behind and lost by a shot. And I don't think when it's all said and done, there'll be too much between them in terms of wins.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point, and we obviously saw far deeper numbers on Nikolai leading up. It was disappointing he wasn't in the field when we had our kind of Monday research because recent ball striking, when we like to kind of chase that, was something he absolutely had. So good on him. I mean, history kind of having that in back-to-back weeks with the Twins. Yeah. We're seeing the Cordas, of course, in the Solheim Cup right now too. But man, it's pretty special to have kind of that situation, especially twins at their age, be able to pull that. So that was some exciting golf, and also we have the Korn Ferry Tour Finals that wrapped up. And we tweeted, earlier this morning, 5 of the 6 guys, basically that were full-time European Tour players, all advancing to the PGA Tour. Aaron Rai, Matthias Schwab, Lucas Herbert, Christian Bezuidenhout, and Kurt Kitayama sneaking through. And then, of course, the one and only not making it through. Sadly, the one that I would have thought was a shoo-in almost, Robert McIntyre, did not make the weekend in either of his first 2 events and did not even tee it up on the last one, decided to go home, clear his head, and try to get ready for Wentworth here.
And I do think it's damaged, like I said, I think last week, it damaged his Ryder Cup chances as well. And I think you have to chase that PGA Tour card, okay? It's the holy grail. That's what it's all about. Us as European Tour fans and commentators, whatever you want to call us, are going to be disappointed to lose players of their caliber to a PGA Tour schedule. But ultimately, it's the pinnacle of the event. We want to see these guys eventually when the PGA Tour events, and people want to look to us as information for what these guys bought on the European Tour. It's great to be able to share that with everyone. But I think in terms of the Højgaards we just spoke about, they're probably candidates to go over there at some point soon. Crockers and people like that as well. Horsfield should be over there full time in in a not too distant future. So it just happens. It's not a feeder tour. It's anything but, because the guys come back over here and play. And this field in general shows that.
Absolutely. And I think it's, without further ado, kind of diving into, again, the biggest event that we see all year. BMW PGA Championship has had a laundry list of incredible winners. Francisco Molinari comes to mind in that epic run that he had. Danny Willett, Tyrell Hatton being the two other recent winners. Alex Noren knocking off Byung-Hun An, notching a win here as well. Some very fun golf has been played throughout the years. This course, I guess the best way, it just kind of tests every part of your game. I think of kind of the tree line setting that it's hard to really overpower with the driver, but you see Rory McIlroy doing it at times, opening with terrible rounds, closing with impressive rounds like he does here and there. But the closing holes, back-to-back par fives, are always a lot of fun. 16 is very short as well. You can really birdie yourself in, but it's a par 72, close to 7,300 yards. Tom, being so close to you, what are your thoughts on the course and what's the skill set needed to compete here?
I did a great justice. I think it's an event we've seen a lot in the past. It was remodeled slightly again in 2017, and I think the move to September that's happened since the start of 2019-2020 renewal is a significant factor. The weather does change. May it be very wet. September it tends to be dry, although this is England, so it can rain on any given week. But I think that if the wind gets up, despite the fact that it is tree lined, it can be a significant factor. I think that the small greens and the treacherous around the greens at times there are some really funky shots, and I think you see it. Every time I used to go, I remember as a younger adult, every weekend you'd go there and you'd miss a load of stars that had missed the cut. I remember Justin Rose missing cuts, Poles are missing cuts. So you want to see them, and they're not there because they might shoot 68 one day and 77 the next. It's one of those courses that can really catch up with you fast. It's a tough start. The middle gets a bit hairy as well. So. You do see some good scores. I mean, it's been 19 under and 20 under the last 2 years. But then before that, it's kind of a mix. Chris Wood beat Rickard Karlberg with 9 under. Matteo Manacero won 10 under in a playoff. 6 under Luke Donald right back in the day, 2011. And that was after 6 under Simon Carlwin as well. So it has variations. I think that now that the better players come over and there's more of them, it's deeper, I think the score just gets better by natural progression. But yeah, I think it's a strong iron game. I don't think you do really overpower it. I think it's a strong iron game and making up around the greens if you miss those small greens.
Yep. Amen. I totally agree. And with being the only show in town this week on professional golf formats, we're going to see some really, really large DraftKings prize pools for the week. We have the main $15, which, we never get this style of tournament, has 50,000 to first place for the week. We have a really strong 555 as well that has a 4 max if you prefer that kind of route. And there's a lot of single entry contests that have opened up too. But to have, a contest with $150,000 in prize pools is something you see perhaps once a year on this off week. And it happens to align with, Wentworth this week. So as we dive into the board, I want to take this time to make sure if you are, supporters of us in the past, we really appreciate it. If you could like, subscribe, review, leave comments. Tom's all over the YouTube comments, getting back and forth interaction. We appreciate that. So if you're first time, diving into European Tour this week, we welcome you. Thank you for listening. We also have the audio platforms as well. You can look at us at Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the mix that has all of the Mayo Media Network shows across on the kind of niche sports that you can find. If you prefer the audio formats, you can find that at any of your podcast platforms. So Tom, we look at the top of the board here and Victor Hovland makes his way. And I think he is a deserving favorite 10-1 with the recent golf he has come and displayed coming over the European Tour and winning in Germany recently. Deserving 10-1, last year's winner, Tyrrell Hatton, 16-1. Best odds I saw, Shane Lowry, 18. And then I would say the next two you can throw in that bunch would be Matty Fitz and Tommy Fleetwood, who both teed it up last week. One of them finishing a stroke short due to a late water ball for Tommy. And Matthew Fitzpatrick didn't even come close to sniffing the weekend. Thoughts at the top of the board? Victor
Hovland's the obvious favourite, right? I think if there was a PGA Tour event on and you had a short price favourite, I'd fancy doubling them up. You look at, I think he's been to the European Tour 6 times. He's won the BMW International Open, 3rd at DP World Tour, 6th at the Saudi, 23rd at Dubai Desert Classic, missed the cut at Abu Dhabi. 11th here on debut. And that 11th, he basically slipwalked his way around Wentworth that week. I was there. Nothing got him going. I think he was in the group with Finau, both very, very relaxed, just strolled his way to 11 under without any stress. So different player now. I think he was 89th in the world after that week. He's now 14th in the world. So very, very obviously the favourite. He's got some, his first Ryder Cup to look forward to as well. So you want to put in a good showing for the captain there. So, yeah, I think he's a worthy favourite. Obviously, Tyrrell Hassan, defending champion, never easy. Shane Lowry has excellent course form. Really, really good. Probably should have won it one year when he lost out to Rory McIlroy. Tommy Fleetwood feels like we're saying a lot of the same things at the moment. That top 10 last week, or his second, shall I say, was his first top 10 since March in stroke play. Just feels like he's just disappointing, which has been the case since he come out of the pandemic. And Fitzpatrick, I sort of spoke him up as being someone that was actually quite sneaky and playing really well on PGA Tour. He does have a decent record here, so you can see why he's in there at 22 to 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that I am making a conscious decision to avoid this, side of things. On DraftKings, I'm going to probably be plentiful with Victor Hovland and, looking into Hatton and mixing it up there with some Fleetwood. But the real one when it comes to the betting market is just beyond this range for me where I'm going to start my card. And it's, Alex Noren. And if you think about back to Noren's victory would have been 2017, his victory here was arguably one of the most impressive rounds that I have seen as kind of a fan of professional golf. If you think back, I can remember vividly the night before somebody tweeted, I hope I can find it this week, a picture of Noren's hands. This is when the Noren blistered hands on the range came out, where he is just pounding balls, looking to find anything as he sits with relatively no chance, leading into the final day. And here he is just again out here probably. I mean, he was, that was kind of his stretch of golf where he ripped off a bunch of wins, but that Sunday 62 where he was, I believe, 3 strokes better than anybody else in the field. There was only 5 golfers who even broke 67 that day or 66 that day. So I just think it's an unbelievable, kind of story he has at Wentworth. And then you combine with his renaissance of recent form. I mean, somebody who has, I would say, a mediocre year at best has came alive over the FedEx playoffs, kind of leading in. I actually thought he might maybe have a chance to sneak into Eastlake, but you can see him with his best finishes, I would say, of the year with a T9 at the BMW Championship, a T4 at the Northern Trust, 2 really, really strong events. We saw that T4 at the Rocket Mortgage, which, that doesn't even kind of hold a candle, I think, to those 2 top 10s there. So we're seeing him on full display from a tee to green standpoint, gaining tees almost every single week off the tee. Approach has been well, and we know his short game, especially on the greens, is very impressive. 27 to 1, even 25s out there, I think is very fair. So Noren is where I am starting my card off.
Yeah, and there's literally just one reason why I'm not on him this week, and we'll come on to that later on in terms of somebody else that I like for similar reasons. But that 62 you talk about, I mean, he was in 21st place after 3 rounds, and he was 7 shots off the lead. You say that was against Andrew Dote, he was 6 shots off the lead of Brandon Grace in second. So he really had no right to win that event. It felt very much like Brandt Snedeker at Torrey Pines type of thing, where he just does something that nobody else in the field can do. And I always remember it being a 63, so 62 is even better. Absolutely amazing. And he is that type of player, right? He can just get hot at any given time. His putter heats up. I wonder whether it's been like a Ryder Cup inspiration as to why this kind of form has kicked on, or whether he's just found something. Maybe it was a case of going over to the PGA Tour and just grinding his way into that kind of swing of things. I don't know, but it certainly seems to be he's picked up the game of golf over the last 2 or 3 months, to a completely different level to it was at the start of the year.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, you get trending form, you get his finishes. Again, I love, lead in form, of course, but you also see those in the most difficult, events that we've had recently on, the tour. So, I mean, same reason why Victor Hovland's performances, whether they might not be, win second, third, top 5s, it's still versus the best in the world. where unfortunately some of the middle of the summer stretch and even, until the last couple of weeks in the European Tour was still some of those weaker fields. So, putting apples to apples isn't really fair when we look at the finishes there. So let's go to your other selection here, which I feel has some remnants to Noren in the recent form.
Henrik Stenson has just been a completely different golfer over, what was it, last 3 events or so. I think it was the first week where he kind of played well, and I sort of said, a lot of it was gained on. I think I came on the show and said that it was short game based, and that's always a bit of a worry. I think it was at the Czech Masters where I think he gained something stupid like 9 strokes around or on the green, and you worry that's a problem. I think he came from 93rd place or whatever it was. Then he goes third at Grand Cercio, and you think, okay, slightly weaker field, comes back, and then he leads away after round 1 last week and finishes 15th. And it's just been a clinic. It's just been the old Henrik Stenson. He's just got the grooving those irons back in. We know he doesn't play the driver very much off the tee. He doesn't need to here. He's now got Gareth Lord back on the bag as well, which is massive. Obviously, Gareth Lord, has gone over to Justin Rose's bag in the past. Once Stenson was sitting out for a little while. He's got 4 top 8 finishes here in the last 15 years. The last 3 starts at a 7th, a 3rd, and a 17th. 17th came on his first start here in September. He was 2nd after round 1, 3rd after round 2, and just before Saturday, and that kind of left him too much to do on a Sunday. And it's just the way he's been playing. Like, it's just phenomenal. And we talk about Ryder Cups and getting people up for it. We saw it with Sergio Garcia before Paris. I think we're seeing it with Stenson now. I think that Podrick Harrison wants one of him or Justin Rose to kind of go in there, put it all out and just give him an easy pick, because beyond those 2 guys and how experienced they are, if it stays exactly the same as Shane Lowry stays in his position and it goes Garcia, Poulter and those 2 guys as a pick, it's quite easy. Once you start opening up to the guys that we'll talk about a bit later on in the show, it becomes a minefield. And I think he just wants one of those to come to the pool.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I would agree that the ease of the picks seem like they could be there if the chips fall the right way, but is that the best side? I mean, we'll debate that a little bit later on, but is it the best way they could structure this team? I don't necessarily agree, but they could absolutely make a statement this week and say, all right, here we go. Let's ride.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to stay one more in this range as well. A guy I think had one of the better debuts at this event would have been 2019 with a 3rd place finish. Christian Bezuidenhout is that style of golfer, in my opinion, that just is the epitome of a grinder, in addition to just a improving ball striking game. He's short off the tee, but that doesn't really be too much of a detriment here. He's very accurate, so he can play from the fairway. Short game is lights out. It's kind of, in a sense, I mean, the guys maybe are a little bit better off the tee, but Willett has that type of degree in his game. Hatton's a better version of that. But, I think Bezuidenhout just carries a lot of just trust and reliability, and somebody that I'm very strong on going into this tournament. He also was one of those golfers who locked up the PGA Tour card, like we mentioned. So it's twofold. You're either playing, on house money. There's no pressure. He realistically isn't going to make the Ryder Cup. I guess, is he probably, we can pull it up. I mean, can he if he wins or no?
No, he's South African, so he can't play.
that would also make sense. That's very embarrassing, but we'll see him in not too long then. But so if we think, gosh, I'm gonna get roasted for that. I can't wait. But I was just thinking of the other guys that can win and get in. So if you think about Bezuidenhout, who last time we saw him, Korn Ferry Tour Championship, 64 on Sunday. Round of the day, we saw, if you look at those 3 events, 10th place finish in the first one, needed a strong finish. Everything, everything's on the table, all chips right there. If it can fall through, 64, round of the day, it's just enough for me in momentum that you come over there, you're playing ease, free, and you'd like to put on a display. And, that just all adds up to 35-1, in my opinion. It's just enough value, in my opinion, for that number.
He went to that little stage in there where it was kind of 16-1, 18-1, 20-1, and I could just breeze straight past him in the betting. And now he gets that sort of 33-1 number, 30-1 number where you think, okay, now I've got to give him a second look. Very, very impressive, like you say, yesterday, 64. And there's always that worry that it's just one final round, it's caught your eye, and it doesn't really matter. He was kind of out of contention, but he was trying to push for something. But he was 10th at the Alverston Boys Open as well, the first playoff event. 58th in the middle wasn't so great, but he's been very, very steady. He's always going to make the weekend, you feel like. I can't remember the last time he missed the cut. He's got to go back to the Scottish Open last season for his last missed cut. So he's just going to give you a great run there. And yeah, it's one of those ones where I always think that he relies an awful lot on his short game, but that can't always be a bad formula at this course. We've spoken about the fact that if you do miss greens, you need to get up and down. I think he can do that. So yeah, Christian Bazoo now, I like the pick. It's just not for me this week.
Yeah, very fair. Very fair reasonings. For me, I when I stack my card in this range, I like to, because those are probably win only bets for me, unless you can get a really good Bazane Hoot number. But I'm going to get deep down into some other each way bets later on. So in the mid range, who to you kind of stands out as potential? And they're also DraftKings plays. A lot of these guys we kind of talk through do represent this mid tier of DraftKings salaries, which I am, again, I'm probably going to be heavy into the $15 this week, with a pretty large player pool. So definitely going to have exposure in these guys as well.
I think there is a ton of names here that, you spoke to me about Matthias Schwab earlier on, led the Corn Ferry event in greens regulation. Victor Perez here was second on his debut last year. He's obviously chasing that final Ryder Cup pick. 2 top 18 finishes in the last 3 events. I think he's coming to form just at the right time. You mentioned, obviously, Francesco Molinari. The thing with Molinari is his price was 50 to 1 last week, and we mentioned it looked big, but realistically for the way he's playing, it wasn't. And it hasn't really moved. And I know it's a good event for him, but he didn't show enough at the Italian Open for me to have any sort of interest there. Then you've got your guy Guido. He is an absolute powerhouse. I'm sure I'll let you come on to him in a minute. But Garrick Higo played very well on debut. And then I've got a couple of picks here and one to avoid after some information we got last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I'll pull up the DraftKings salaries as we go and kind of talk through where it stands kind of in that mid-range. But if you look, okay, so we see guys that we've mentioned our names so far. Guido, 8,600, 66 to 1. Best irons we've seen out of him on the calendar year. Absolutely going to be betting that. Disappointing, to say the least, I think, last week. Thursday was horrid. Sunday was horrid. Friday and Saturday, not too bad. But those irons were way better than what we have seen recently. So you kind of put the middle with the better and you just keep going. So 66 to 1 again, we're getting numbers on these golfers, which are some things we haven't seen in a substantial amount of time with the stretch on the European tour. So Guido, $8,600. Last week or 2 weeks ago's winner, Rasmus Højgaard, $8,400. We'll be playing, him. Matthias Schwab, $8,100. Victor Perez, $8K flat. I think a lot of good things to be said. I mean, if you get in the higher range, we're going to see Robert McIntyre, who I'm hoping plays well, will take the chance in DraftKings relative to the betting market. 8,900, hoping he goes a little bit lower owned. But that's kind of 8Ks. I think you can really pepper. Schwab will have to hit some putts to pay off from a each way point, which I just had to make a selection, ultimately not getting there with him. But let's talk through another golfer who has had, I would say, polar opposite events at times where everybody's on him. He withdraws or misses the cut by a mile. Weeks, if you keep betting him, even if he's at 28 to 1, has shown that he can have some of the best golf in the world. Why are we both on Sam Horsfield this week?
Because hopefully he's not going to do what he's been doing on Fridays for the past 6 events. He is a superb golfer. He was 15th here on debut, and I think he was 3rd after 54 holes that year as well. Yeah. Had a realistic chance of winning there, and the occasion got to him. I think he was behind Rory and Francesco, so it's big guns to chase. 15th last week when not without his best stuff. That's the type of player that he is now. You mentioned Guido last week. I think it was 34th without really having anything. These guys now putting solid finishes in without being anywhere near their best, and that is huge. 23rd at the Czech Masters, again, horrible Friday. 6th at the Kazoo, what happened? Didn't like Friday. 5th at the BMW International Open. It's just been littered with really, really good chances. He wasn't good here last year, but he was just coming off the back of those 2 wins, if you remember. It wasn't back-to-back, was it? There was one in between, but the Hero Open, the Celtic Classic. I just that debut performance, where he was 2018, where he really turned it on, and I really, really like that. And he strikes me as the type of player. I mean, he's going to have Ian Poulter there this week, who's always been a kind of mentor for him. Surely someone's going to be in his ear, like, just do everything you can to get onto this Ryder Cup team. I don't think he can probably do it at this stage. I don't think he's probably done enough to get picked just yet. But he would be a huge asset in terms of the way that he hits the ball. If he could somehow really impress this week at Wentworth.
Yeah, it's just so much talent, so much literally leading the field in a round here or there, if not twice a tournament. Just shades of something that's ready to break through, and why he's been on so many betting cards, kind of in lead up, in the 20s at many of times. Yeah. So to see him, at this kind of number, is very impressive.
You have to play. If you've been someone that's been backing Sam Horsfield all season, you just have to play him this week, right? And that's why I've backed him, because I think at 10-1 and 12-1, I'd just rather avoid him. Anything can go wrong. He can shoot those kind of 77 rounds on a Friday or whatever it is, where he misses a ton of putts. He can pull out, whatever. But when it's 70-1, I really do not need a lot to go right for him, because he's already doing it. We talk about someone like Sean Crocker as well, a very good friend of his. Both of them are just elite ball strikers. Both of them are PGA Tour ready. They're just putters and one good round away from just really elevating their games.
Yeah, the separation to me in the betting market is not enough to go with Crocker over Horsfield in that opportunity when they're very similar numbers, especially because Sam has gotten over the line when Sean's still chasing that first one. But on DraftKings, Horsfield's 8,500 while Crocker's 7,800. So Crocker's bound to be popular at that range. But there's also another golfer at 7,800. I feel remiss if we didn't select, but there's a rumor going out there. Can you confirm, is Richard Bland on your betting card this week?
Richard Bland was going to be very close to my betting card. And then we got the inside information that he is been cussed. And when cussed picks golf, we avoid. So Richard Bland, sorry, sir, but that excellent run you've been on at 48 years of age, defying the odds, continuously performing well, has just been absolutely obliterated. You can expect to go back to the Richard Bland that we used to take the mick out of every single week, laugh at in your face, because that is going to happen again.
I've embraced cussed. When he said he's on the Guido bandwagon and the Open Championship is Guido's, although he did bogey the 35th hole and missed the cut by one, I still have it in my heart, for old Tim. So I'm really hoping, I was rooting for Bland. $7,800 feels like, some lineups I'll definitely have exposure to. But hopefully Cuss can will Guido back to it too. Cuss, if you're listening out there, don't be afraid to bet on our man Guido in the 60s. If we keep going on down, I thought there was a glaring number that I couldn't pass up for Callum Hill. Callum Hill has been, if you think the last 6 weeks, I guess I would dare say, on the European Tour, the top three golfer, maybe potentially even higher than that. Like, he has been exceptional, even at times where it feels like it spurts, where, these guys getting their first win, is a huge deal. To come back top 10 the week afterwards. So he's gone 4th, 1st, 7th, 34th just last week at the Italian Open. But if you dig a little bit deeper, again, we love kind of analyzing the small details of it. So Callum Hill last week opens with a 75, then he shoots a 65, then he goes right back to a 75, and then he shoots a 66 on Sunday. So, if you think that 65, that's a round of the day. 66 would have been one back. Lotharable shot a 65, or Lorthable. So I'll get working on that one still. That one works too. But Callum Hill, almost 2 rounds of the tournament there and still finishes T34. Just enough. And to see him at 80-1 after this stretch of golf, you love looking at kind of the location finishes too. And that is something where Callum Hill has done incredibly well. His victory coming in this neck of the woods, 2 other top 10s, Also, if you look at the British Masters, UK Championship for him. So 2 other events he has excelled at. So those last 3 events in this area are 9-8 in a win. 80-1, although it took him a little while to get over the line, now he has that in his back pocket, can trust him a little bit more on Sunday. So I think 80 is an awesome price.
There's a couple of things I really, really like about Callum Hill is that since that I had my doubts over, the form that he was putting in last year during the kind of return from the pandemic. It felt like he was just taking advantage of the resort courses, taking advantage of the no crowds, and just stringing back-to-back events in. But he's done it again this season, and now it just looks like this is the type of player he is. If we say that about too many people, they can't all do it, but I think that Callum Hill is one of them. You only really got to look at his reaction to winning when he won, the Kazoo Classic in Kent. He had just a very, very muted reaction, like, well, that's just kind of what I do. That's what I'm here to do. It's what I expect of myself. Some will look at that as arrogance, and I felt in the first instance, that's a bit arrogant. You should be kind of overjoyed. You should be crying like everybody else does. And then you probably realise, actually, you may just be very good. And the subsequent form suggests that it is the latter. You talk about location form, like you say, he's played very, very well in England, played British Masters well twice, hasn't played here yet, which was just the one concern for me, along with someone like Johannes Veerman, who as well is in very, very good form. Both got their wins recently. But I don't think I'd let that put me off. I think, if you weren't going to mention him, I was. I think we talk about this, or I talk about this an awful lot, that you look at these guys at 25-1, you don't want to be on. He won at a short number, as you'd expect, but you want to target these guys at these events. On the PGA Tour, you get the players, you get the WGCs. On the European Tour, you get this, and the Dunhill Links. The fields get stronger. They go out to a big price. There is nothing that Callum Hill has done wrong to go out to 80-1. There is just some guys that have come over. And you look at the guys that are shorter: Adam Scott, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood,
Lee Westwood,
Ian Poulter. Right, I know they've got a lot to play for. I know they've got a lot of name value. Do they, Brandon Grace? Are they in the kind of form that Callum Hill's in? I know Tommy Fleetwood was second last week, but I don't think they're any better than him at the moment. And they've got other things to play for and other things to keep in mind. Whereas Callum Hill is just focused purely on winning this week.
Yep. Absolutely. If you go through the DraftKings prices of guys that you just kind of ran through, so Callum Hill, 7,700. If you talk about debutant in Johannes Veerman, 7,500. Another debutant that I had my eyes on, but again, you can't bet everybody. No. And potentially this golfer's style might not be the best fit for Wentworth, but last week was incredibly impressive for Adrian Meronk. $7,400 for him. You'd argue that second place finish, that would be his best that he has had. So I think Meronk was very intriguing. I just have the last selection that we align on here, and I'll let you lead in our 90-1 pick here.
Masahiro Kawamura, and he's been the guy that we have talked about every week, right? Every week we've gone through the top of the board and we've gone, Masahiro Kawamura's hit the ball incredibly well, but he's 25-1, he's 28-1, he hasn't won, he's 33-1, he still hasn't won. This is a guy, I think, is it 9 years ago now, maybe a bit longer, that he won on the Japan Tour as a 20-year-old, and he's never kicked on. But his game, tee to green is like electric. His approaches have been very, very good. He had one of those rounds yesterday where he flew up the leaderboard. He shot 5 under in really not tough conditions, but I think a lot of people at the top were kind of hesitant and struggling to score. So for me, just always taking a step forward. He did have a debut here kind of 6 years prior to last year where he missed the cut. But if you look at last year as kind of his debut, considering the player that he is, a 20th place finish there. And I think he was 10th maybe after 54 holes and just couldn't quite push on into those places and contend. I think the occasion got the better of him, but looks a better player this year, more well-rounded. And now he comes up at 90-1 instead of the 25-1s we've been used to.
Yeah, again, another situation of just seeing that odds drift that just feels too good for a golfer we is ripe in form. So he feels like he averages like an eagle per round too. I'm always tracking, and he's ripping off birdie streaks left and right. A great DraftKings play as well. And again, potentially this might be the difference when we have individuals who produce content for the PGA Tour side, who are strong in the analysis of making their own odds, making their own projections, and looking at value on the DraftKings salary versus value in the betting market, absolutely there's a difference. However, when we see this opportunity of the BMW PGA championship, often the guys that I am betting are absolutely ones that I'm heavily exposed to on DraftKings. I normally find a group of golfers, probably this week will be in the 30 to 40 range if I'm playing 150 lineups, and just, really keep tight with them and not all that concerned. Sometimes on a value perspective, as a European game, it's just quite a bit different than the PGA side of things. So that wraps up both of I guess from under 100 to 1. I think there's golfers we'd like to talk about here as we go down the board. One golfer who I thought was going to ruin Minwoo Lee's first round leader, golfer who showed up a little bit 2 weeks ago, but Italian Open didn't end up finishing the same way for Gavin Green as it opened, but there's a lot of life there. So you're on him at a deep number this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of 400 to 1 over here. He's 300 to 1 in general. And it was actually you that alerted me to, he showed some life a couple of starts ago, and he's built on that, right? You look at his irons last week, and it looks like he just had a really good round with his irons in the final round. He gained over 2.5 or 2.3 strokes, and he was 6th in the field. But you actually look, he was building up to it. He was 117th in strokes gained in the first round. Then he went 36th, 28th, 6th. It's a really good progression. He's been in 10th place after 2 rounds here last year. I don't think it's a perfect golf course for Gavin Green. I think he's somebody that he does like to open up and hit a few drivers, and when he's got that on a string, that's his biggest thing. So maybe the Dunhill link in a couple of weeks time.
You're exactly right, Tom. I mean, you look at that improvement, he opens with a 74 at the Omega, Gavin Green, and then he goes 65, 69, 68, 69, 69, 70, 71, 7, rounds of quality golf, some really low ones mixed in there. 24th place finish, at the Italian Open. I'd say similar. You spotted something in Lucas Bjerregaard too, when he kind of sparked that run where he ended up, having some really strong finishes, paying off on DraftKings. So maybe this is being early on it. And if you look at that price, $6,500 on DraftKings for Gavin Green, very affordable, potentially a very way to differentiate yourself too. And I think that's what we need to go through as the 6Ks here, and kind of needle out who we're interested in. And maybe there's ways that we can be top heavy, because like we've mentioned so far, there are a lot of guys up the salary board we like. So we need to find some guys who present some value down here.
Yep, completely agree. I think it is a case of, it isn't the best golf course for him, as I said, but I think that in the next few weeks, he's a guy that needs to look out for. And if we can just get early on him and maybe get a good top 15, top 20 finish for him on DraftKings, then 6,500 pays off.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll go through our in or out for the 6K range here. Talk through a few different golfers. Again, we can kind of differentiate through. 6,900, Kiradesh Aphibarnrat.
Yes, he's been flashing up in recent weeks.
Yes.
I'm just meant to say yes, aren't I?
No, that's okay. That's okay. I can't believe I now have to say this. Pablo Larrathapel.
That's it. It's great. No.
All right. I think I'm in. $6,900. Played exceptional, I think, last week. Renato Peratore, 6,900.
No.
Agreed. Ryder Cup captain, Padraig Harrington, 6,900.
No, too much to do.
Let's keep going here. 6,800, Victor Dubuisson.
No.
How about Zanotti, 6,800?
Zanotti, yes.
Okay. I knew you'd be there. Let's go. Benjamin Bear, 6,700.
Yes.
I think he's been kind of sneaky lately.
How
about under the radar, Graham McDowell teeing it up this week, 6,800.
No, vice captain duties.
Jazz Janawatanan, $6,700.
Yes.
Joaquin B. Hansen, 6,600.
Yes, played well last year.
How about Miguel Angel, 6,600?
No.
Ashley Chester, 6,600.
No.
Brandon Stone, 6,500. His ball striking is still really good. It's kind of a miracle he's not making any cuts. Tapio Pulkkinen, 6,500.
No.
First round leader here 2 times I think he was first round leader twice or 2 years ago here. Um, Golfer made the cut last week if we talked about him. Sunday 68 for Sammy Valimaki, $6,400.
Yes, hit the ball well. 13th on debut.
Nino Bertazio, $6,400.
No.
Gets thin down here. Julian Surrey, $6,300. Three made cuts in a row.
Would love to, but no.
I wish he could really pull through. I like Surrey. We mentioned him, Lucas Bjerregaard, $6,200. I thought he was going to win here not that long ago.
A third, was it a third? Yeah.
Top five, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, but yeah.
Robert Carlson, we'll stick with the Champions Tour, $6,200.
Yeah, vice captain duties, just leave him alone.
Man, it gets tough down here. Daniel Gavins is 6,100.
Yeah,
a winner not that long ago.
I know, but I think they're down here for a reason, right? I think that as much as you do need to find guys down the bottom, I think 6,800. I mean, Gavin Green's a good little differentiator, but I don't have a ton of confidence in him.
Oh, I got one.
Go.
Francesco Laporta, 6,400.
Yes, we're giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like the best way that you can kind of find. Oh, Michael Anzavero, $6,600 potentially. I mean, he can't really do anything, but it feels like he shouldn't be priced there. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't need that enigma.
But yeah, I think the more we look through this, it is difficult down there. So maybe you have to just be pretty balanced this week. Maybe that's a more popular build. Looking forward to seeing how that goes for DraftKings and competing against all you guys for the 50K top prize. Tom, let's review our betting cards before we talk a little bit of Ryder Cup.
Yeah, so for me, I thought the very obvious bet for the week was Henrik Stenson at 40-1, like Sean Crocker at 70-1, and Masahiro Kawamura at 90-1, and Gavin Green at 300-1 and bigger.
Yep. Alex Noren, 27-1. Christian Bezadenhout, 35-1. Guido Migliozzi, 66-1. Sam Horsfield, 70s. Callum Hill, 80. Masahiro Kawamura, 90-1. 6 bets under 100-1 for me this week. So, Tom, Ryder Cup's on the horizon. Selections are coming just after. We're going to have 3 wild card selections and the opportunity for a decent amount of these guys, if they were to have either a victory or a really strong finish and things fall their way. Unlike Christian Bezadenhout, there are all other golfers who can qualify for this one here. So if you look at the list, with a win, there are 14 golfers who could make their way into this year. I'm going to read them because it's motivating factors. Schwab, Stenson, Wallace, Rasmus, Richard Bland, Cuss favorite, Callum Hill, Danny Willett, Dietrich, Noren, Rose. Guido can get in with a second. So Guido's on that list. These guys above are seconds. Poulter, Robert McIntyre, Perez and Wiesberger only need a third place finish. And again, things to fall their way. But Sergio isn't teeing it up this week. So there is a little bit of room on that kind of list for these guys to jump Shane Lowry and get up there. So what are your thoughts right now as they anchor in? Is there somebody who you are really bullish on being on the team?
I read somewhere earlier that the guys that said OWGR rankings that the projections that Wiesberger could finish like 50th and get in. So I really think there's quite a lot of permutations. But for me, like I said earlier, I think that Henrik Stenson or Justin Rose with any kind of top 5 finish there would just be picked. I think that Project Harrington wants Shane Lowry to just end up in that final pick. I think he wants Justin Rose or Stenson to step up, and it's very easily Garcia, Poulter, and Stenson or Rose. Now, the trouble is one, you don't want to get stuck with a guy that's managed to get himself into the team at the last minute. I think I spoke to Ollie Wilson about his experience. About how long some of that? It was 2008, where he got into the team and he said that Nick Fowler didn't really respect him because he hadn't won and didn't want to play him. He played really well with Stenson and then just got dragged out for the afternoon. So I don't think you want a situation like that. But also, you don't want to, rule these guys. I mean, you talk about Rasmus Højgaard, you talk about, Callum Hill, you're talking about guys like that are just really impressing at the right times. Guido, as you said, I think he's probably more likely to happen in a couple of years' time. But, is it a bad thing if any one of these people get themselves in with a good performance? I don't think it is. I think that, they're just riding a hot hand. For me, it very much boils down to Garcia, Poulter, and one of those experienced heads, which probably is the safe option and maybe the boring option, many people will say. But we're playing away from home. Experience counts for plenty. And someone like Justin Rose's record is a lot better than people give it credit for.
Yeah, I did the show recently, 300 Yards to Unknown, with Rick Gaiman, walking through my thoughts and just having full control on what, I imagined. Again, there wasn't a restriction. I left Lee Westwood off. He would be the one of those that have been locked in that his recent stretch of form just isn't anywhere near, I think, Ryder Cup capable, or Ryder Cup, I guess, baseline that I would like to see. Yeah. There's so much experience in these guys too, that I would prefer. I just feel like, again, the team aspect of it's so important, right? The European Tour, the Solheim Cup was just finished as we went through here. The European team did win. And you would dare say, looking at the singles matches today, I'm not sure there was any of them from, outside of momentum of the last 2 days, that probably on the European side were favorites in that matchup, potentially won, and ultimately that's just kind of a testament to the way they prepare and, really relish these team moments. And I would love to see them take the opportunity to, instead of a Rose, Sergio, Poulter, Westwood kind of driven, have 25 or 33% of that team from veterans. Maybe you do get the opportunity of getting somebody with a strong performance at Wentworth on that last spot and kind of tease them. You only play them on Sunday. You don't have to play them Friday, Saturday. I think Bob fits that mold perfectly. Of course, he has, back-to-back miscuts, did not take advantage of what he needed to. So unless he wins realistically, he's not going to get that opportunity. But what are the odds right now that Guido's on the next, 2023 Ryder Cup? It's probably, gosh, I'm so biased. I was going to say 50-50, but that's probably strong. But
he's got a good chance, isn't he?
Yeah, being in Rome, if you can build this around Guido, give him a little bit.
Build it around Guido. Forget John Rahm. Forget
never heard of him. Rahm, who's that? Guido. But that's, I don't know. That's kind of my head, is be like, show somebody the way.
I think the thing is with the Ryder Cup is that, when you've got soccer teams, when you've got American football teams, when you've got basketball teams, right, you are a coach or a head coach or a manager that is preparing for the future, and you can bring these guys into big events and give them the experience so that they can develop quicker and get experience at an early age. In the Ryder Cup, you could be one and done. Patrick Harrington may never captain again, and he just wants to win the Ryder Cup. We talk about Westwood there as a potentially a weak link. I think that Fitzpatrick won't really get used. I think that he will play potentially a foursomes with a stronger iron player, but he won't get used in the 4-ball sessions. But you look at Westwood and Garcia's record together. I think they've played 7 times. I think they've gone unbeaten, or they may have lost once. I did do this on the show last week with Travis Fulton, but they were literally just, they've been unbeaten, definitely in foursomes, and it's just incredible what they can do together. And I don't know, do you add someone like Rasmus Højgaard to that now, when he can just get himself in 2 years' time? We see, you would have said like Matteo Manacero was a shoo-in to be a Ryder Cup star in the future, never played in one. These guys drop off so quickly, and that is the one concern. You know what you're getting with, I was a massive advocate for leaving Sergio Garcia off in Paris and taking Matt Wallace, and look how that one panned out. Matt Wallace has probably never recovered from that season and that moment, and Sergio Garcia has flourished. He's earned his way back onto the team, I think.
I completely agree.
It's tough, isn't it? I think the trouble is with Stricker is he's given himself too much to do. He's given himself 6 picks because he didn't want to happen what happened over the last couple, where they've had to miss guys at the last minute. They've taken Phil Mickelson to the Golf National and left Kevin Kisner at home. Would have been perfect for him. Not perfect this year, but Billy Horschel missed out just that 1 year after those FedEx Cup playoffs. I think they wanted to leave themselves so many options to make, but now they've just got too much to think about that they're just kind of going to make it worse for themselves. Whereas Europe have got 3 picks. 2 of them are spoken for, and I think that last one's up for debate.
Yeah, I mean, the other one who's trending again, if Alex Noren does win, what we've seen out, he's like that hot pick, potentially that. I mean, what he beat, I mean, he had the clinching putt, not the clinching, but the final putt, right? In Paris, that, he's just shown enough recently that I think, anybody could be of value from that sense. So
I think that nobody would complain if Alex Noren went over Justin Rose or Henrik Stenson. If a Bernd Wiesberger or a Callum Hill or Rasmus Højgaard or Guido or someone goes in and either doesn't play and doesn't really contribute and then loses in the singles because they get a tough draw, and we lose, Podrick's just going to get absolutely hammered for not taking Justin Rose or Henrik Stenson. And I mean, Podrick Harrington has never done things the way everybody else wants to. He's always been in his own, he's sort of walked his own sort of thing. So, yeah, I think he's the guy that if anyone was going to give someone a chance, he would do it. I just think that someone has to step up to the plate at Wentworth this week and force a decision. And it's such a good event for that purpose.
Yep. I completely agree.
And do you think that's going to, sorry to cut you off there, do you think that's going to kill people's chances of winning this week? Like, is Callum Hill, now he's seen that he can actually get into the team, is he nervous?
It's such a big tournament, that, I mean, is less pressure better, is Bezuidenhout free rolling this week in Schwab, in Rye, and these guys that have, what they've achieved. Callum Hill, realistically, to end out the season is just playing for, climbing up the world rankings. WGCs, he's in the top 100 now. So it's a motivating for fun for some. For Robert McIntyre the last 2 weeks, I think he's somebody who loves those moments, but man, the pressure might have been too much. You see him posting on social media, after frustrating rounds, need to get better, need to work harder, skips the KFT finals, because potentially it was a lot on him. I think so much of the kid, and maybe it was a lot for the pressure of the moment. So, you reflect on that, but then also it's how much goes into course fit. You mentioned Rasmus Højgaard, a couple of times. I think about Hazeltine, where Thomas Peters was electric, unbelievable, somebody like his nature. I mean, he would be an unbelievable wild card that, it can't happen, but who's that course fit type of guy that maybe you could find down that ranking?
And the thing is as well, when you think about, that's a really good example of Thomas Peters. Rafa Cabrera was a star the week that he played. I think he had 3.5 points. Nicholas Colsaerts was electric at the start of Medina. Like, the guys you don't expect to step up actually do a really good job. And they're slightly older than what Rasmus Højgaard was at 20 years of age to get thrown straight into the Ryder Cup. He's going to get heckled a lot by American fans. But he stands up to, pressures of winning final rounds. And, he's going to have if he gets played in pairs, is he going to get put with someone like a Rory McIlroy? Is he going to get put with someone like a Sergio Garcia or someone like that to help him along? These guys can handle it, right? They're all professional golfers and they're all good enough. And Callum Hill, I think, would get up for something like that. Robert McIntyre certainly would. It's a shame that he has completely died off, because I was pretty much against him getting into the team for quite a long time. Everyone was talking about him as a certainty, and I kind of found it a bit of a nonsense. But he does have the perfect fit. He's played well in championships. The way he drives the ball.
Yep.
The streakiness with the putter. He's not the best putter, but just every now and then he gets on a run with him. A bit like Shane Lowry, just rolls them in at the best point. So I think there's a bold choice to be made, and I just ultimately think it would just go down to the 3 people that are obvious.
Yeah, it's more than likely that someone plays their way in. Yes, I couldn't agree more. So I think it's a exciting week from a lot of angles. We love this event as is. Whether there was nothing on the line, we love this event. So in my opinion, there's so much to play for. There's so much opportunity in the markets for us to take advantage of with these deeper odds, with the DraftKings prizes. Just really excited, and make sure to communicate with us, whether it's in the YouTube comments, whether it is, Twitter. We're always open.
Yeah, right. I live in those comments. It's great. I love to dive in there. And, but in all seriousness, we've had some great, I'm sure you've had messages to Sky. I get messages kind of weekly now, which is really nice. I really enjoy the show with you and Sky. Can you help me with these picks? And I'm more obliged to. And sometimes I give bad advice, sometimes I give great advice. We had a guy message us last week that said that he took down a contest thanks to our picks, and great. Like, that's what we're here for. We want you to enjoy it as much as we do. We enjoy talking about it for the hell of it, and
Yep.
and you guys making money is just a bonus on top.
Nope, you're exactly right. I think that's so important. And for those that don't dip their toes into the European Tour ever, this is a grand week. Build up, do some Ryder Cup research, check out these guys that maybe you aren't as, in line with. I know a lot of them do play PGA Tour events, but they're not the favorites that you get to see like we have this week. So just really enjoy the BMW PGA Championship. Root on who you're going to be betting. Our cards hopefully align with the stars with you there on Sunday. Make sure to wear your sunscreen, Tom, if it's going to be sunny out there. We remember last time what happened at the Open Championship. If it's pants, maybe you need pants again too. But no, I'm excited for you.
And I think I might wear something identifying, and I might just shout Baba Booey or mashed potato or something like that, just to stand out. That could be great. Maybe I'll put a Beef Johnston t-shirt on. He seems to have a big following. So
why don't you paint your body up with the Italian flag?
We know exactly that.
Hey, if he's in contention on Sunday time, you have to do something.
I will literally get an Italian jacket. I'll pop the collar.
Yes.
DJ Paulie D. In we go.
Amen.
That's it. And the sunglasses. Absolutely.
Yes. I have good feeling for Guido this week. Italian Open was just an appetizer. This is the full course that we're going to have this week. But good luck, everybody. We enjoyed having you on here. And please, again, reach out at Skyhook DFS. Tom, where can they find you?
Tom Jacobs 93 on Twitter.
Perfect. Feel free to reach out, guys. Thank you and best of luck this week.